There's several public comment. This is on the agenda.
Oh, okay. Good evening, everyone. We're here for a city council meeting. We're only 22 minutes late getting started. It is August 6th, 2018. We'll start the meeting with a roll call and determination of quorum.
Scott. Drew. Nordstrom. Modrick. Solomon. Lewis. Armstrong. Laurenti. Drury. Roberts. We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll have an invocation by Scott Wiley, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this good day to be in Rapid City. And we thank you, Father, for your many blessings upon us. We thank you for tonight's proceedings, and we pray that your hand of guidance and wisdom will be upon our city council and upon our community. We pray, Father, for unity of spirit as we work toward the betterment of this great community that you put us in. We just pray for your blessing upon all the proceedings here in Jesus' name. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. And now on to the adoption of the agenda. This is a time when the council can make alterations to this agenda or adopt it as written. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion approved by Drew and a second by Armstrong. All in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And now we go down front for a moment for an employee award. It's a good day in City Hall when we can celebrate a long-term employee, someone who's given in some cases, the majority of their life to public service. And it's important to recognize that and appreciate what all that means to us. And for this next one, we can have Kurt Klunder come forward. And I'll turn it over to Fire Chief Rod Seals.
Well, thank you, Mayor. We're recognizing Kurt tonight for 20 years of service with the city of Rapid City, with the fire department. And you weren't kidding when you said half his life, because this only tells half the story. Kurt's actually been in the fire and EMS realm in and around this community for 41 years. And so, although he's been with the city for 20 years, he's been doing it a really long time. And I'd also like to be the first to congratulate him on his upcoming retirement, September 29th. Kurt.
He looks pretty good for being in the business that long, I think. Okay, now is a general public comment. This is a time for the members of the public to discuss or express concerns to the City Council on any issue not on the agenda. Action will not be taken at the meeting on any issue not on the agenda, except by placement on the agenda by unanimous vote of the council members present. So we have a couple general public comments. For your information, we have a 3-minute timer right here with these lights. When it's yellow, it means wrap it up, and we'll keep moving. So the first one, Much Usera and Ron Jeffries.
Hello, everybody. I'm sorry, Mayor, I'm with Ron Jeffries. Did you say 30 minutes or 3 minutes?
You should just do all the talking.
Okay. My name is Much Usera. I work with Black Hills Energy, but I also serve on the Central States Fair Board of Directors. And we wanted to just spend a little time, less than 3 minutes hopefully, to just talk a little bit about the event that's coming up, the Central States Fair. Ron Jeffries is going to talk about details, but on behalf of the Board of Directors, I want to personally invite every one of you to come to the Central States Fair. As you had mentioned earlier in your budget meeting, the ag community is a very big portion of the economic impact we play in Rapid City. The Central States Fair, along with the Black Hills Stock Show, is an avenue for the ag community to visit Rapid City, spend a few weeks here, spend money, as well as invest. And on behalf of the board, first of all, I want to thank Rapid City for being our partner with the Central States Fair, along with Pennington County. Without you and the Pennington County group, the fair would not happen, and it would not be as successful as it has been in the last 10 to 20 years. With that being said, again, I want to invite you. Hopefully we can give you some tours, explain how it impacts our community. But I'm going to give it to Ron because he's got a few exciting things that are happening at the fair this year.
First off, Ron Jeffrey, General Manager of the Central States Fair. We do have an official ribbon cutting for the 73rd Annual Central States Fair. That'll be Friday the 17th at 3 p.m. And of course, the final date of the fair is the 26th of August. We've got a great run going. As Much mentioned, ag continues to be strong. Last year we added another breed of cattle to the show, the Longhorn cattle, which is just a very cool sight to see. We added another breed of cattle to this year's Central States Fair. And while that may not sound super exciting, it's important for us to have these ag people seeking us out and asking for permission to come and host their events at the Central States Fair. We've also added a cattle dog competition. You may have seen the sheep dog competitions at the stock show. Well, they also do that with cattle, but cattle don't herd like sheep, so it's a whole different deal. It's a great deal, but again, it's that ag community wanting to come and participate with us at Central States Fair. We're excited to host that. Among other new things, we've got the South Dakota State Arm Wrestling Championships. We still got a few openings. If anybody wants in, we'd be glad to get you an application. And we're excited about it because we think this is a stepping stone to get a chance to host a much larger tournament as we go. So we're excited. We partnered with Visit Rapid City to help bring that event to the Central States Fair. Number of other kids activities. I want to mention the grandstand lineup. We start off with Supercross races. We've got the Mountain States Ford Demolition Derby. The Black Hills Energy Concert Series includes Brothers Osborne, Ned Ledoux, Dwight Yoakam, Frankie Ballard, Midland, and David Nail. We've got a ranch rodeo and 3 nights of Range Days Rodeo.
Did you mention the German tent?
I did, and polka in the German tent. So appreciate your time here, and thank you. We hope to see you at this fair.
Thank you all.
All right, thank you. And next, Dean Hedrick.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Dean Hedrick. I'm a resident here in Rapid City. I'm the general manager of Holt Homes. We build workforce housing and affordable housing in Rapid City, Box Elder, and Pennington County. I'm also the president of the Black Hills Home Builders Association. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the Home Builders Association, and thank you, Councilman Solomon, for talking about the fact that the Home Builders Association has always been assured at our mayor's social in January, at our Cracker Barrel sessions we have with the council members, at our breakfast we have with the council members, that we work as a partnership with the Home Builders Association. We as the city are a partnership with that. Up until last week, I firmly believed that. And last Wednesday, you guys as council members received an email from the mayor warning you that there were going to be some disturbed developers and builders coming and talking to you because of the budget items coming up that were presented tonight. If it had not been for city council members, we as the Home Builders Association would never have been aware that that change was even being made. The following day, on the 1st of August, I had a meeting of what I thought was a very genuine meeting with Mayor Allender to discuss these issues. We met for almost an hour. Every question I asked, to simply get the facts, I was told, that's a good question, I'll have to get back to you. That's a good question, I'll have to get back to you. Finally, he said, could you put those in an email to me, and then I will get those answers for you? And I believed I was doing the right thing for the Home Builders Association and the city when I did that. Follow up a day and a half later, when I have been asked to respond to the mayor's responses from KNBN News. The news reporter had my answers to the email that I sent. And at 4 o'clock this afternoon, I received those answers. That was last Friday. That's very upsetting to me. I consider it to be highly unprofessional, and the Home Builders Association feels like we've been slighted. We're being ignored, and like you said, Councilman Solomon, we are the people that have the foot in the fight. We are the people trying to get housing prices down. This does matter. This does matter to all of us. And I simply wanted to make you aware of the fact that I don't believe that we're playing on a level playing field. I don't believe we're partners in this. And I'm upset about it, and you need to be aware of that. Thank you.
Jeff Loggy.
I got to read some notes here I had, but I'm Jeff Loggy from Rapid City. I'm a builder and developer. I am also a board member at the National Association of Home Builders. I also sit on the State and Local Government Affairs Committee at NAHB, and I am also the immediate past president of South Dakota Home Builders. I'm going to talk affordability. Councilman Lewis hit on this, and I think you need to take affordability into consideration when you're looking at anything that raises the cost of a home. America's dream is home ownership, and we need to focus on that. You know, the construction industry is the most regulated business in the United States. And right now, 25% of the cost of a home is government regulation. In the cities, well, you fill within that 25%. When you look at an increase, every dollar that the city would increase is probably closer to $1.20 by the time you add on all the taxes, fees, insurance, everything that goes into this. So take that into consideration. Also, I just got some information from NAHB, and it's regarding being able to afford a home. The most current information I got, for every $1,000 the price of a home goes up, 152,903 people no longer can qualify for that home. So what that's saying is, if you had a home that you could buy and that price went up $1,000 the day you were going to close on it, you would not be able to qualify for that loan. Take that into consideration when you consider raising fees. If we were truly an affordable city, we'd probably put a freeze on building permits, because every time you raise it $1, that dollar goes back into the cost of that house. And then, like I said, we have 2% excise tax in this state that we've been fighting to get rid of. That goes on top. Realtors' commissions go on top. All the other insurances, when you're paying by the thousand, goes on top of that. So Rapid City, City Council, take that into consideration when you start deliberating on raising building permit fees. And this is a very exorbitant raise. I don't care what information's out there, and we're going to hit on it later. New housing is going to be impacted. We want affordability. The city wants affordability. You talk affordability. Now let's stand up and do something about it and stop this. and make this a place we can get affordable housing again. Thank you.
Terry, is it McNally? Is that correct?
My name is Terry McNally. I am a mortgage banker at Black Hills Community Bank. I am the chair of the Associates Committee for Black Hills Home Builders. I'm on the board. I was visiting with a past council member that stated that most of the permit fees have been increasing significantly higher than the city services provided that are connected to those fees. We touched base with a city council member just recently too, and he stated that the building services, Brad Solano, his department turned money back last year because the $2.1 million in building permit fees he received exceeded his budget. This is something to think about besides the cost of what it does to my clients. As far as affordability and what they can qualify for, it's a huge difference, and you guys need to sit back and look at that also. And why would we increase it if we're already exceeding that number?
Bill Freitag.
Thank you. My name is Bill Freitag. I'm a builder developer in Rapid City, have been for a long time, and I'm the chairman of the Black Hills Home Builders Government Affairs Committee. So I'm familiar with all of you. I'm familiar with all of this kind of activity. I want to make a couple of things real clear here. Rapid City is a hard place to do business. The mayor even mentioned it when he was running for mayor the first time. You guys all know it is. And I don't think that when our president comes to you, comes to the mayor and has a meeting, and then the mayor says, I'll get back to you on it. He never gets back to you on it. He goes to the media. The media calls us to come and find out what it is. And then, surprise, surprise, and then today, finally, our president got that. I don't think that's a very good way to do business. I think it contributes to the scenario here that Rapid City is a hard place to do business. Now, on top of that, when you were doing your report, there was 92% of all building permits. Anybody remember that out of that presentation? 92% of all building permits issued are not affected. That just doesn't seem right, does it? But it is. It is correct. The reason that's correct is because, according to Sean Kay, that's who I got the information from, the last 5 years, the average value of a building permit is $25,000. So in a year when you got 5,700 permits, and the majority of them are for hail, it drives that average way down. Now, so you can't use that. And plus, here's the other thing: the 92% of your permits now you're going to do for the same or less. Right? That doesn't make any sense to me either. So the number of houses now that are in this 5,700 is only 250 building permits. If you go back your 5 years, it's 250 houses or less, single-family residences. Okay? And then Jason brings up growth, and isn't growth our best friend? Growth is your best friend. So now, of these 250 that are in Rapid City, hundreds of them are being built at Box Elder and in Somerset. So if they got built in Rapid City, how much more would have you got in property taxes and in sales taxes? Maybe it would have helped your growth, wouldn't it? Maybe you would have had a little more money in your budget to spend if you'd have had the tax revenue from these. And remember, it only takes 5 houses today to be $1 million. 4 or 5. And so when you got hundreds being built everywhere else, would have that growth helped you? So 92%, $25,000 or less. So I would hope that you We're going to have more conversations about this, and we'll get documentation for you and facts, and I hope you'd make the right decision. Thank you.
Jay Mendel.
Hello, Jay Mendel. I own a masonry company here in Rapid City. I'm a past president of the Black Hills Home Builders Association and the current second vice president of the South Dakota Home Builders Association. The way I look at this is a tax on housing, disguised as a fee. When you're already taking in more money in building permits than we are receiving in services, to raise it even more just to pad the general budget, it's a tax. You're taxing us to pay for something else. When you pay a fee, you expect to get a service in return. We get a service, but now the fees are outweighing the services we get. I mean, it was mentioned earlier, yeah, the fees go up, but the services should go up along with them. We've been told there'll be no additional services for this, so you're raising the fees to pay for other pet projects. This makes housing less affordable. Currently, 90% of the projects I work with on are outside of city limits. This is going to drive even more of them outside of city limits. It's going to affect the growth. It's going to slow it down. You can't keep raising the price of what it costs to build a house and say you're for affordable housing. We keep raising the prices, and then we wonder why Box Elder, Somerset, they're booming compared to what's going on in Rapid City. You're just further driving the business out by raising what it costs to do it in town. Thank you.
Ross Jones.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Ross Jones. I've lived in Rapid City 33 years. I've been in business 28 years building homes. I'm a past president of the Black Hills Home Builders and the current first vice president of South Dakota Home Builders Association. And I too just want to touch on the affordability. I, like Chad Lewis, take my plan in, and the city has done the evaluation on it. I've never filled out the numbers, I guess, so I am a little confused by that. But we talk about affordability. We're continually being regulated, whether it's from the city, the state, or the national government, and these costs all get passed along. We continually hear that Rapid City is unaffordable to build in. You know, Black Hills Energy has built or expanded their company, bringing people here, and they're having trouble with people finding housing that is affordable. So I would just ask you to really look at this before you make a decision. It just doesn't seem right that we're getting fees added on to pad the general fund. We're already paying for our service, and it just seems like we're continually getting it added on to. So, thank you.
All right, that's the extent of our general public comment, and now we move on to the non-public hearing items 2 through 50.
Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure if my slip got lost, but
Oh, I'm sorry, I think I subliminally put yours on the bottom of the pile. Dane Boomsma.
So I'm
Sorry
Dane
about that.
Boomsma with Boom Construction. I'm a past president, currently on the exec board at Black Hills Home Builders. I was going to start this with, I didn't think we were that scary of people that we couldn't be approached, but maybe it's just me. I can take that though. So we have strived, as long as I've been a member, to truly create that partnership between the city and ourselves. We are not just out for the bottom line. Most importantly, each and every one of us in here that builds houses, first and foremost cares about our client more than anything. If we didn't, we wouldn't be in business, because we've seen those guys come and go that don't care about their clients, and they do. Because every time the market goes down, those guys are gone. So everybody that's here today went through the last recession. So every single person that's talked today cares about the client first and foremost, not the bottom line. So with that, we have to protect our industry And that is why we're here today to talk to you guys, because we've had this constant battle with open lines of communication amongst the city council, amongst the mayor, amongst the directors of the departments within the city. I'm going to go back just a few months when we were in front of you talking about water lines. And at that time, we brought up the evidence and the facts that neighboring communities, we're one of 3 in the state that don't use poly water lines. Well, in that instant, the city and the staff doesn't want to compare ourselves to community neighborhoods or neighboring communities. Now, we're going to raise permit fees, so now it's okay to compare ourselves to neighboring communities and grab what they're doing. But it wasn't before, when we were bringing a cost-saving measure in front of the city council, and the mayor was involved as that as well. On that note, the director, Mr. Tech, assured me, let me take care of this, we're going to get it pushed through. He did that amongst staff. They sent a letter out to all of the builders and developers showing what they adopted, which is their criteria that they came up with. They took a solution that was saved money and added enough requirements and stringent requirements to that, above and beyond which we had before, that now all of a sudden we were proposing hundreds of dollars of savings. They've minimized it so much that now that variance that they've permanently granted is null and void. So my point of all of this is any culture in any business, and the city government is a business of its own type, the culture starts at the top, right? So when the mayor doesn't open the line of communication amongst an association that represents this industry, how does he expect his staff to want to do that? How does that start? That has to start up top. The mayor's got to open that first to invite the Dale Techs and all of the directors to want to have the same line of communication. So I really hope that this communication improves as we go through this budget process so we can really digest this, because ultimately it's not about saving the dollars on the building permits. It's about taking care of our clients and making sure that we can build affordable housing as affordable as we can in Rapid City, which is tough. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, now that takes us through the general public comment. And on to non-public hearing items, items 2 through 55, and we'll open public comment on items 2 through 49. And we have one speaker request for these items. On item number 44, Ted Pettyjohn.
Ladies and gentlemen of the council, Mr. Mayor, thank you for the opportunity to comment. Well, here we are again. I don't know what went awry the last time this matter was considered before the council. I wasn't here. But as I asserted when I stood before you the last time, our deficiencies at the mobile home park at Prairie Acres South really weren't that substantial. And as I promised, we rectified those problems within 60 days. And I'm pleased to say that we're in compliance and eager to get our license, and we are excited and eager to become a part of Rapid City. And so I hope that you will all support this resolution tonight and approve our annexation. Thank you.
Thank you. That'll close our public comment time. So now on to consent items, items 2 through 49. The council can approve all of these with one vote, or they can pick individual items off for separate consideration. We'll go to Jason Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to pull item 44, please.
Darla Drew.
I'd like to pull item 18 and 19.
Amanda Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to pull item 22, 27, and 29.
And Lisa Modrick, there are no items left. Go ahead.
I'd like to request an adjourn. Item 16, please, Mr. Mayor.
16. Okay, any more items? If not, we could have a motion to approve these items with the exception of 16, 18, 19, 22, 27, 29, and 44. Move to approve by Drury and a second by Solomon. All in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We'll go to item number 16, which is to authorize the mayor and finance officer to sign amendment number 1 between the City of Rapid City and Creative Outdoor Advertising for transit, passenger bus, and bench pad advertising for time extension for placement of benches. We'll go to Lisa Modrick.
Thank you, Mayor. I want this pulled as I cannot vote for this as I didn't on its original presentation. I'm confused as to why we're having to amend and push this forward if we were not prepared with enough information or the project to begin with. So once again, as part of the statements I made when this came before us early on months ago, it wasn't prepared then, it wasn't ready then, and it's not ready now, so I will be voting no for this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion to approve by Scott, second by Laurenti. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Motion passes with 2 noes, Drury and Modrick. Next item is item 18. Approve Resolution 2018-53, a request by the City of Rapid City to consider an application for an amendment to the comprehensive plan to revise the major street plan. Was that the one you wanted pulled? Okay, Darla Drew.
Thank you, Mayor. Kip Harrington had contacted me today. He wanted to speak about this change to the comprehensive plan, so we'll please take it away, Kip.
Thank you. Kip Harrington, Long Range Planning. This amendment is before you tonight because there has been a change in the status of the comprehensive plan amendment. As this is going through the process of adoption, we've been contacted by the landowner and the property developer that they are in process of trying to sell a portion of the property, and in doing so they would like to just shift the alignment of one of these roads about 200 feet to the east, and that is shown on this graphic. And this would be the proposed North Valley Drive extension, and it's the proposed collector street that's involved here. And basically this green dotted line is just going to swerve out a little bit over this way and then connect back in. But since it's not shown on the map, we wanted to bring that to your attention for approval of this amendment with that change as noted.
Okay, any questions from the council? John Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Kip, one question real quick. The change on that alignment, does that get that right away out of that power line easement?
It does move that away from the power line easement, which would make it much more constructible for the developer and the property owner.
Absolutely. Well, it couldn't be constructed in that power line easement. So anyway, thank you very much.
Okay, is there a motion? Motion to approve by Nordstrom.
Second.
Second by Modrick. All in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 19, acknowledge Engineering Services Division presentation. Ted Johnson, Rapid City Engineer, and we'll go to Darla Drew.
Thank you, Mayor. Move to approve and ask to retain the floor.
Second by Amanda Scott.
Move to acknowledge.
Move to acknowledge, and a second by Amanda Scott. Go ahead, you have the floor.
Thank you. I just want to thank Dale Tech for moving forward with presentations to the Public Works Committee from all the departments in Public Works. It's very informative. Ted did a great job with his presentation, and we look forward to hearing from the rest of the departments as we move forward, and I would encourage people to stream these meetings because you'll learn a lot about our departments. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, and we have a motion to approve. Acknowledge. We have a motion to acknowledge. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And now on to item 22. Approve request the council to approve a 3-year plan for the next round of projects to be funded out of the vision account and authorize the solicitation of potential projects from the public. Amanda Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make the motion with just one slight change or clarification. In the summary of this, I believe it says that there is a recommendation from the mayor to reduce the vision fund to 50% for projects indefinitely. I don't like the word indefinitely in there. To me, it sounds as if we're making the decision for future councils. So I would just want a clarification. What did you mean by indefinitely?
We are making that decision for future councils. We have a 30-year bond payment facing us out of that. So,
but that's not indefinitely. So I'd rather
Well, we could
approve
say
it
for
for the
30
3-year
years.
plan or for the 3-year plan, because then that would always come up that we have that obligation for the Civic Center for the next 30 years.
So you can make the motion to approve with that amendment, if that's what you want.
That's what I would prefer if I can get a second.
Okay, the motion on the floor then would be to approve item, what is it, 22?
22.
Approve item 22 with the change that the wording be to reduce the vision fund by 50% for the 3-year period.
Correct, the 3-year plan.
And a second by Darla Drew. Now we'll go to Chad Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make an amendment or a friendly amendment to the motion, if I could, please, to direct the mayor to direct the staff to bring forth any vision projects that have not been done in the last 20 years to be brought forth for the final vision fund committee to be for separate consideration by the council. Is that a substitute motion or is that an amendment?
I think that's a whole different ballgame. The
Well,
item 22.
I agree with the basis of her motion. I'm just trying to add that caveat, supplement it that way. Would you accept that amendment?
May I ask him a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, Mayor, thank you for letting me ask Alderman Lewis. So, Alderman Lewis, are you bringing that up because in the summary that the mayor provided the city council, he's recommending that the recommendations of the citizen committee and staff recommendations come to a council meeting, and so...
Right, well, I just want to make sure that the projects that have not, there's projects that have been done in the past that haven't been funded, they've been approved a couple times, and they've never been funded and finished. So I just want to make sure they get, proper consideration by this council, because I think we keep going forward with new things, we've ignoring things we've already done, we've already approved, and we never funded them. So I just think it'd be proper to make sure we, I hate to see some of those things get swept under the rug.
So the intent is for you is to go back to some previous years and resurrect applications from the city that have not been funded.
Maybe
or
just
were funded and then unfunded.
Well, approved, yeah, some things that are approved, basically. I just want to make sure they're...
Joel Andine wants to weigh in.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't think we need a motion to do that. I would say to go back 20 years might be difficult because there's no staff members here that were here 20 years ago, and the records online kind of fade off, so it would take more work. But I know almost certainly I have a binder in my office from like one of the last 5 years. If we can go back into the mid-2000s, we can probably identify any projects that were brought forward and not funded and provide that list to the council separate from any recommendations.
I was thinking more along the lines about 2005 or so. I don't want to, 20 years is kind of long.
We can do the research on that, but I think that'll really all come in the application process. So
I just don't want it to be a separate, I don't want it to have to go through the citizens committee, because these are already funded. I just want a list of what we've already approved as a city, and we ended up rating them and not fulfilling those obligations as we already passed them. Something that we've, I just think they should be items that were kind of vital to the community, and that past councils actually thought they were vital enough that they put them up and, voted them through, and we just ignored them and we moved on to new things, and I think it's kind of...
Okay, duly noted. I think what you want to make as a motion here is out of order, but we'll find a way to get your request handled.
I just want to make sure those items are, I guess, have it somewhere we can vet them and perhaps, and possibly approve them again, so they get funded this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Amanda Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe I have a couple minutes left. Because the reason I made this motion with that indefinitely is also, as I was referring, and sorry, Alderman Lewis, I may have misunderstood what you were trying to say, but one of the concerns I have too is the mayor's recommendation is that we hold our final vision committee at a regular city council meeting, and I'm going to make a recommend. I know this is not the time, but already I'm looking ahead saying I think that needs to be a special session so that we're only considering the vision funds at that time. So
I would think you'd be in
Alderman
charge of
Lewis.
scheduling that.
Okay, that'll be perfect. So, and then with your note, we'll make sure that citizens committee stuff comes forward, city staff stuff comes forward, and Alderman Lewis's list of past approved projects or whatever for the Vision Fund Committee consideration.
Okay.
Thank you for allowing me to make that comment.
Jason Solomon.
Thank you. Just to weigh in on this discussion. One, I prefer to have it at a city council meeting. I don't know why we have to have it separate. All these items are very important that we deal with, but that's personal preference. Two, are we, I wasn't thinking about how we're going back, but I was thinking about how we're moving forward. Are we going to bring city staff projects up to the council separate from the community projects from the that are presented to the Vision Committee? And I guess that's I've asked you this question, so maybe you can clarify that for the whole council, Mayor.
Well, I have an answer to that question, but I'm not the one that makes that decision. With the recent arena vote and the commitment of 50% of the Vision Fund revenue for upwards of the next 30 years, I think that the public would expect we would put the city vision projects in with the citizen projects. So this is up to you. But I think that that expectation exists out there, and so that would be my recommendation.
And I understand that is our decision. I'm not sure I'm getting that same vibe. So maybe we're talking to two different crowds, and I'm sure everybody's got an opinion on vision funds. But I guess for the record, I mean, I would like to see city projects come forward to the council just to compare side by side with community projects, and then we can weigh and prioritize how the next 3 years worth of spending are going to be. So that might be coming from Public Works or Parks or whatever. But I would like to at least have that opportunity and give the staff an opportunity to present those. And maybe they're vetted. I believe they might be vetted through you, but eventually make their way to the council. That would be fine. But I would like to see that. So that I'm one of 10, but that is something I would like to see. And then we could determine from there where to go.
Okay, we're flexible. I think the 10 of you can be as flexible as you want to be on how that process is handled. So we're on this motion to approve the request to approve a 3-year plan to be funded out of the vision account and authorize solicitation of potential projects from the public. And something else. Is your change in that one?
Citizens Committee.
Okay. Well, please.
Okay, thank you. Just to clarify Alderman Solomon's discussion there, I had sent an email to Joel Landine. May I ask Joel Landine for his opinion on that ordinance?
Yes.
Because I believe it is spelled out in the ordinance how these different projects will come before the Vision Fund Committee, which is basically the City Council meeting. So, Mr. Landine, Alderman Solomon's question is will staff projects come forward to the City Council at the same time, parallel to the Citizens Committee, or do the staff's projects go through the Citizens Committee before they come to City Council?
The intent of the ordinance the council has adopted was that the city projects not go through the citizen committee, that they are vetted internally by the city. Both lists of prioritized projects come to the council, and the council then integrates the two lists of projects based on the two priorities.
Thank you. That was my understanding when Brad Estes and I worked on this ordinance of the Vision Fund with the City Attorney Joel Landine at the time, and that's, Alderman Lewis, the only reason, the last thing I'll say is why I'm looking at a separate one is because I think there may be a heavy lifting load when we're considering projects coming from two different recommending bodies. And then if we throw in Alderman Lewis's list of past projects for consideration, I would like us to have a clear head without worrying about anything else on an agenda that night. Thank you, Mayor.
Mm-hmm. Okay, can we get the motion as we know it read back, please? No? Can we clarify? It is to approve the request of the council, approve a 3-year plan for the next round of projects to be funded out of the vision account and authorize the solicitation of potential projects from the public. And what exactly was your addition to that? I've just forgotten.
The only addition, Mayor, was my understanding from your recommendation is that city projects...
Oh, indefinitely.
Oh, and indefinitely, yes.
Okay, with the change in the wording to say half of the vision fund for the 3-year project plan duration. Steve Laurenti.
Thank you, Chair. And that is my question, my very question. So either one of you or both of you, if you could just explain what the intention of the indefinite part was? What were we protecting there? What were we wanting to do with that? I don't want to use the word protecting, but the indefinite part of it. If you can explain that to me, please.
Well, I think there's been a lot more thinking done about that statement right now than there was when we put it in the summary. But I believe it was just to make clear that we have a debt obligation on 50% of the Vision Fund for a long period of time. If we say 30 years and we pay this off in 20 years, so we could say, you know, something like with no more than a 30-year period. But that was to make sure that a future council doesn't come around and award all of it.
So do you feel that this modification puts that at risk? Do you feel that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It's pretty clear how we're going to pay that debt payment for the future, so I don't see that as a big problem.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to understand that clearly because I felt like maybe the language could read as the life of the bond for the Civic Center. So once the bond is paid, then that's gone. But
all great ideas.
Yeah. So I appreciate the explanation. I yield.
Okay, Chad Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just discussing something, but I think that Alderman Roberts is going to make the point that this 50% is going to be like 40% in about 10 years. I mean, it's going to 50% is not going to be required in 10 years or whatever. So I don't know if that's something they can bring forth later and change, or if we need to just worry about that later and fix it at a future date. Just not trying to nitpick. I understand what you're trying to get to.
No, it's a good point.
So,
point well taken. Boy, this looks like an easy deal on the agenda. How about if someone wants to offer a substitute motion to approve the request of the council to approve a 3-year plan for the next round of projects to be funded out of the Vision account and authorize solicitation of potential projects from the public, and to fund the 3-year plan with the remainder of the Vision funds not needed for debt service for the arena project.
For those 3 years.
Okay. Okay, Solomon makes that substitute motion.
Second.
And second by Drury. Okay, all in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And now, item number 27, authorize mayor and finance officer to sign an engagement letter with Cato Thorstensen LLP for the FY 2017 audit. Amanda Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. And may I ask the Chief Financial Officer a question, please?
Yes, please.
Thank you. So, Pauline, this is only for 1 year, and my understanding was that we bid this out for like 2 or 3 years. Am I missing something?
No, you're right. We did a request for proposals for 3 different years, and they gave us prices dependent on when they actually came and did the field work, as well as if they only did a 1-year audit versus the audit for 3 years. We got discounted rates then for each of those 3 years. But you still have to have an annual engagement letter with them outlining everything, just to make sure if anything changes, they have the correct wording in the agreement.
So does the city currently have a 3-year contract starting with the 2017, or are we in the middle of a 3-year contract?
2017 is the second year in the 3-year RFP that we awarded. But there is no actual written contract for the 3 years. It's year-by-year contract.
All right. Thank you. I yield.
Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. A question for Pauline, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
Pauline, just to clarify the turnaround time, I'm not sure exactly what the phrase is called, but when they have to complete the report and send it back to us, is there a time limit that has to be established on that? Is that in the RFP, or can you explain that process?
It was in the RFP for the September 30th is our deadline, basically, for our grants and also our bonds. Our bonds do give us leeway through the end of December, but they still have to report that we didn't meet the September 30th deadline. Last year was an anomaly because of all the changeover in our software and the issues that we faced during that, and then having them try to fit us back into their schedule when we got the information out of it that we needed. They've already been here and done their field work this year. I actually have an exit meeting with them tomorrow. So this is coming late because I had the city attorney's office look to see if we needed to add any language for the new legislation that was effective July 1, where it says that if we don't have the audit done within 18 months of the year end, which we've always had it done within 18 months of the year end, then that there could be a penalty assessed. And so we chose to not put anything in there for this contract, giving them the benefit of the doubt that everything will get back on track this year. So that's why there was a delay in getting the agreement to you.
One more question. So you're expecting us to see a report by what?
I would probably sometime in September, because once they get done the field work, they'll have to put everything together on their end. They'll have to do their own internal reviews, give us their comments back. Then it will have to go to the state, to the Department of Legislative Audit. They give their comments. We have to take care of those, and then it will come to the council for their approval.
Thank you. I'll yield.
Okay, anybody got a motion? Motion to approve by Drew, second by Modrick. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item 29, acknowledge the June 2018 General Fund Cash Balance Report. Amanda Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to acknowledge and retain the floor if I can get a second.
Second by Laurenti. Go ahead.
Thank you. And may I just ask a follow-up question of Pauline Sumption, please?
Yes.
Thank you. And Pauline, I'm just asking for a reminder. I believe you said we finally got caught up with the state in the month of July. Is that correct? Where we're right side up? So this is still reporting one payment from the state short?
I need to double check that. Hang on a second. We actually caught up in the month of June.
Okay, so if my memory serves me correct, because I forgot my iPad, but I believe it said that there is roughly 1.3 that was designated in that, and usually by this time of the year, we've already spent that. So if we added that back in, if I remember correctly, we're still into the reserves at the end of June. Is that correct?
That is correct. We're slightly into the reserves at the end of June. We come back a little bit in July. I just got those numbers today, but we're still under the reserve in July as well.
Okay, and the state, we have caught up now where we are on target with our sales tax receipts from the state on a timely manner now.
Well, July was a little iffy, but we did happen to get two checks or two deposits in July from them as well. So hopefully we're back on track.
All right, I look forward to looking at the July ending balance. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion to acknowledge. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 44. Approve Resolution 2018-052, Resolution of Intent to Annex Prairie Acres South Mobile Home Park. Jason Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I would like to make a motion to approve. If I get a second, retain the floor.
Second by Laurenti. Go ahead.
Just to really an acknowledgement, Mr. Pettyjohn, of you working with the city. This is what working with the city looks like, and I know it took a tad longer than you liked, but us wanting to do all of this the right way, and at the end of the day, we all win, and that's exactly what happened. You've got a better property, and I do appreciate all that you've done to cooperate and make sure that your park is up to snuff, I suppose, and for the city for being on that. And so kudos to you. Congratulations. We welcome you to Rapid City. We're glad that you're here, and I'm more than happy to approve this. Thank you.
Becky Drury.
Thank you, Mayor. I, too, want to tell Mr. Pettyjohn, thank you for coming forward with this. proposal, I was one of the ones that had the brakes on, but you went ahead and fulfilled your obligation, worked with the city. I also welcome you to Rapid City, and thank you for putting the effort forward to coming up to code and being a responsible owner. I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve. All in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. That takes us through consent. Now on to non-consent items. There are no speaker requests for items 50 through 55, so we'll go right to city ordinances, and we'll go to our legal finance chair, Laura Armstrong.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Number 50, number 18RZ018, first reading of ordinance 6267, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, a request by Joseph Simpson for a rezoning from general agricultural district to medium density residential district for property generally described as being located northeast of the intersection of Harmony Heights Lane and Sunny Springs Drive. A motion to approve.
Okay, that was a motion to approve?
Right.
Okay, second by Laurenti.
Oh, I make a motion to approve, or someone does. I will. Okay.
Okay.
Second by Laurenti.
Second by Laurenti.
Right.
Okay,
All
item
in
number
favor?
50. All in favor of item number 50, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Bear with me.
Motion carries. Next item, please.
Number 51, on number 18RZ019, first reading ordinance 6268, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, a request by City of Rapid City for a rezoning from no-use district to park forest district for property generally described as being located at 3700 Red Rock Canyon Road. And make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, second by John Roberts.
Okay.
All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, yes?
Just to clarify, there's some contingencies on this, on the approval. Yeah, they were approved.
Contingent, yeah, this one is
Is upon.
It's
dependent
on
upon the
number
approval of
43.
item number 43,
Okay,
which
thank you.
was approved.
Thank you.
So that's okay. All right, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Number 52 on the agenda. Number 18RZ020, first reading of ordinance 6269, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, a request by Renner Associates, LLC, for Paradigm Construction for a rezoning from general commercial district to office commercial district for property generally described as being located at 1330 East Minnesota Street. I make a motion to approve.
Second by Amanda Scott.
Conjunction with initial plan development.
Okay, let's clarify. Motion is to approve in conjunction with the initial plan development. Correct? Is that your motion?
Yes.
Okay, and then a second by Amanda Scott and Chad Lewis.
Okay.
All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Road.
Motion carries.
Okay. Number 53 on the agenda, PW 073118-14, first reading ordinance 6271, an ordinance to revise the rates, fees, and charges for the city's water utility by amending chapter 13.08 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. Make a motion to approve.
Second by Amanda Scott. We'll go to Becky Drury.
Thank you, Mayor. I think this is one of the things that you alluded to in your budget presentation about kicking the cans down the road, and then we all have constituents that have to pay significantly higher rates later on, and it's unfortunate. It would be nice if we could all have these nice level increments where prices go up everywhere else. We know they all go up at this city. We all know
Legal
that
and
they
finance.
happen.
read that.
But I just
Okay.
feel
I'm being
a little
funny.
angst for the community that they have to go up so significantly over the next 5 years to pay for things in our water systems. It's not the water department's fault. It's prior councils, prior mayors, it's prior leadership. And I just hope that as we look down the road, we do not do that type of things to future councils or to future department heads, for that matter. So I know I've been just against this because it just seems like too much in such a quick and short period of time. And, you know, truly, I still am against it because I would rather see a small incremental increases throughout the years than jumping $3 and $5 every month. So I just wanted to verbalize that because I'm sure you haven't heard it before. I yield.
All right, thank you. John Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, you're going to hear it again. And I understand why we're doing this. I don't agree with the way we're doing this. I think that we should build it in as a smaller increment over time. I know this is going to pass, so what I have to say really doesn't mean a lot. But I'm hoping that once this does go through, this doesn't happen again. And I said this about sewer rates, I think 2 or 3 years ago, that back then we should have added in a small increment at that time. And I think that going forward, after this is done, as a council, you know, probably very few of us will be here, but I hope the next council will look at this and look at building in some kind of a cost of living or something, you know, some kind of an increase going, you know, instead of waiting another 10 years to do it. You know, I can't vote for it. I can't vote for it with a good conscience just because it's so, excuse my language, damn high. But, you know, I think that it is past councils that have mistakes, but I also think that current councils sometimes spend money in ways that we could spend it a little bit differently. And I'm going to harp on the Vision Fund again because the Vision Fund takes so much of our general fund money away. And, you know, I do appreciate the fact that the mayor took some last year, very little, very little. And I think that we should and could take more. And I think that we need to use the taxes that we already have instead of raising fees, because we can't raise taxes, but we do have taxes that we could use some of that money for some of this. So I can't vote for this in good conscience just because it's too high. Thank you.
Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, taking notes here. Just a concern of mine is that using a CPI or an arbitrary number versus what the consultants come up with is somewhat irresponsible. I look at this as the experts coming in with some numbers and giving us some rationale why that number should be. The other thing that is part of it is very concerning for me is all the deferred maintenance that we are accumulating deferred maintenance. It's an oxymoron, but essentially what's happening is that there's a lot of maintenance that is falling off the list, and using a CPI or some arbitrary number doesn't address that issue. So that's why I'm supporting this motion to bring forward somebody putting together, the professionals actually putting together the numbers and the values that should be assessed or put into the user fees. And that's primarily the reason why I'm supporting this. Thank you.
Amanda Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. On this task force that our Public Works Committee worked with the consultants, the city council members that sat on this was Jason Solomon, Lisa Modrick, and myself. And so, Alderman Roberts, I want to assure you that what Alderman Nordstrom just said is not the case from the professionals. Basically, what the professionals are recommending in this 5-year plan is to play catch-up from not putting in increases, and their actual professional opinion is once we do catch up to use like a CPI or an incremental increase so that we don't fall behind and we make sure that our water fund is secure to make sure that everyone receives clean water. So it actually was the opinion of the professionals that that is much more palatable to put something in place. You still need to do a 5-year plan occasionally just so that you can take a look at your reserves and what infrastructure needs you need for expansion and M&R, but the recommendation is to put in a rate of some type that makes sense rather than to do these one-time catch-ups in a 5-year plan. And I appreciate staff. They worked really hard to even just spread this out over the 5 years. But truth be told, we've got some major projects out there that need to be done, and we need this reserve buildup in order to be able to do that. It is a little unfortunate. I believe that we will all weather it well. I think the allocation between commercial and residential was well treated, and the restructuring of our rate structure is fair to all those different categories and is much more level and sustainable in the long run. So I can vote for this. Thank you for the staff and for the consultants that worked on this, and I appreciated being on the task force. I do feel like I have a much better handle on why we're doing this. Thank you.
Jason Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a question for Pauline, and Pauline, if it's not you, maybe you can point me in the right direction. Why did we initially try to pass this through resolution versus leaving it in ordinance?
When we had the Compass program, it was the recommendation of the senior auditor within that division that we put all of our fees in one location through a resolution, so that way it's easy for people who are looking for how much does it cost to do this or how much does it cost to do that, or they can go to one place and find all the fees that we have.
So given that reason, when we passed this originally, of course, one of our reasons I'm not sure with the rest of the council, but I didn't really think about whether it should be resolution or ordinance, but that it was all in one spot. Since that time, the voters voted that this remain in ordinance, but we have water reclamation that remains in resolution. Shouldn't we combine those into one spot in keeping with the spirit of what that original recommendation was, that we have all these rates in one spot that we pass via ordinance? I don't know.
Honestly, this will probably be the only fee that will be left in ordinance format. Everything else is within our resolution. So this is the anomaly.
But it is one that the people chose.
That is correct. Although I would argue that that's what they thought they were voting on.
Right.
But that's the way that it was referred, was that because it was in a resolution instead of an ordinance.
Okay. I agree with you. I think folks were confused about what they were voting on. They're voting on a method of setting rates, not on the actual rates themselves. I'm wrestling with that, though. I wonder if they should still all be in the same one, and I'm not sure what the rest of the council thinks about that. Some might feel that's a step back, but I feel like those who voted, and there are people who did vote knowing that this should remain in ordinance. I wonder if we should explore including the water reclamation in with the water rates so that it is all in one spot. So I'll just throw that out there and boy, y'all are chiming in, so I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
Steve Laurenti.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I may, I'd like to ask Dale Tech a question, if I may, please.
Please.
Mr. Tech, how does this affect water districts that Rapid City is under contract with?
Well, generally speaking, the rate ordinance that's in front of you tonight has adjustments for those other rates. Certainly, we have contracted rates for water districts. We'll be revisiting those contracts because those rates are set by contract.
Okay, so will this directly affect those contracts?
Potentially. When we get into the negotiation of the contracts, we'll certainly be referring to the rates that are set in this ordinance to set rates for those contracts.
Okay, thank you. I yield.
Amanda Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. May I ask a question of our City Attorney Joel Landine, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Joel, this is in reference to Alderman Solomon and his comments about trying to put the rates together. The way the city council was trying to get all the rates in one spot was the resolution, so that no matter what the department was, they could update one sheet that citizens, well, one sheet that was many pages, but one document that had all the rates in it, so anyone who wanted to look something up, they could go to that one document and see the fees. Is that correct?
I mean, that's certainly one of the rationales behind putting them into resolution.
And then what Alderman Solomon is referring to is if we wanted to try to put the water rates and the sewage rates together, that could only be done by either creating a whole new ordinance or the resolution, because the sewer is a separate ordinance from the water rate ordinance, correct?
Correct. You would have to go back and amend the sewer ordinance and do what essentially we're doing now and re-adopt the sewer ordinance with the old, or with the rates in it as it was previously.
But much to Alderman Solomon's point, they're still not together because they're in two separate ordinances then, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so we don't want to back up and put the rates in another ordinance that's separate and having people, in my opinion, searching all over the place trying to figure out the rates. And then the final question I have for you, Mr. Landine, is since the citizens on the water rates decided by vote to keep it in an ordinance, there's a certain amount of time that the city council must leave it in ordinance form, correct?
Yes, you have to leave it in ordinance. Would have to stay in ordinance for a year from the date of the vote.
Okay. So we couldn't even do anything with these rates as published in this ordinance for a minimum of a year since the citizens have spoken. So these rates will be buried in the ordinance, and I believe, as our chief financial officer already said, all the other rates, I believe, we've got them all in one resolution. So they're in one spot. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Chad Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I didn't want to be the last one to talk. So I do have a question if I could towards Mr. Dale Tech, please.
Yes.
Mr. Tech, just because I keep reading this on the interweb, and are you currently aware of any negotiations we might be in to pay off a developer for some, I mean, that we're raising rates for this so we can pay off a developer? I keep hearing that out there, that we're using this as some sort of, way to secretly raise rates so we can pay off.
I am unaware of any sort of negotiations.
Okay, just want to get that on the record, Mr. Landine. Can I ask Mr. Landine a question, Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor, okay.
Yeah, please.
Mr. Landine, are you aware of any current negotiations to pay off a developer out of the water fund?
No.
Thank you. Okay, can I ask one more question to Pauline Sumption, please?
Yes.
Ms. Sumption, could you please explain to us why we transferred, I think it was 1.2 or something out of the water fund back to the general fund? Was it last fall?
Yep, and we're going to transfer another $500,000 this year. The water fund borrowed $1.7 million out of the utility support fund, which has now been brought into the CIP fund for the purpose of water rights at Pactola. And so this is the repayment from the water fund to the utility support / now CIP fund for that. So we will end up getting, it was a loan established back in 2007, 2008 timeframe. Original intent was to repay ourselves out of the 2009 bond issue, but we were not able to do so based on the language of the resolution. And so they did a loan with a 3% interest rate, so we're making $51,000 off it, 'cause it's just a flat rate, but yep, that was for a loan.
Thank you. I just wanted, the reason I brought that up is I don't normally address publicly conspiracy theories, but this one was particularly floated quite a bit during the last vote about the water rates, and that we were doing it because of these issues that we're talking about up here. And I saw it on social media, I saw it in other various places, and heard different discussions from talking to citizens. And just make sure you know, folks, no matter what you hear, we're really not some big backroom deal up here. We really are trying to do our best to govern the city and get things right. So. And make sure you have clean water when you turn on your tap, or you actually have water in this case, because the one water system right now needs some major repairs. But anyway, the point being is there's no backroom deals going on. There's no hidden agendas. There's no payoffs going on. We're just trying to fix the situation that should have been fixed a long time ago. And like I said, I don't normally want to publicly address these sort of things, but I saw it all over Facebook and a couple other places last time we voted on this, and I just want to make sure it's addressed up here publicly, so thank you.
Darla Drew.
Yeah, I want to be the last one in, yeah. Anyway, I have a couple questions for Dan Kuhn. I see he's out there. He gave us a great presentation on water rates last week at the Public Works. Hello, Dan. When we talked last week, I gave you a direct question of what is our, I don't want to say worst case scenario, but what are we looking at if these kinds of things aren't adjusted at this point? And you talked a little bit about water mains and things like that. I mean, it wasn't a catastrophic failure, but we would see cracks in our infrastructure begin. So maybe you could elaborate on that.
Yeah, just to identify myself, my name is Dan Kuhn. I'm the Assistant Public Works Director. In response to your question, what we would see is what we've already done with the, since the rates were not passed last February, we've looked at reducing our capital improvement plan budget over the next 5 years under the assumption that the rates would not go up. We've lowered our thresholds or our targets for our reserve funds. And then also we've made a commitment in less new rates are adjusted and put in place to not incur any additional debt that is often required to fix our infrastructure, water infrastructure. So we've already taken steps to make sure that we're not being irresponsible financially with the water system. So essentially, long-term, it would be reduction in capital improvements and those types of things.
One of the things I really appreciated that you said was that you will not deliver an inferior product in water to the citizens. That is your commitment to this city. One of the things you will never do is to, you'd rather turn off the water than have an inferior product going through those water lines. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that, because I really liked what you said about that.
Well, I think that is the commitment of our operations staff, is to provide the best quality water that they can at all times. And they take their responsibilities very, very seriously. And they watch and they make sure that the water going into the system meets all of the requirements, both from a regulatory standpoint and from the citizens and the users standpoint, that they're comfortable that that water is safe, clean, and environmentally sound to drink. And so that is their commitment, and that is our commitment with the water system and even the sewer system, to provide the services that the people expect to get.
And I have to say, as a citizen of Rapid City, I mean, long-term, I'm really proud of our water here. It's clean, it tastes great. You know, people that are from out of town remark on that, and as a person that traveled extensively through the Midwest, you know, in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, I really appreciated coming home to the great Rapid City water that we do have, and I really appreciate your commitment to this kind of, I know you're trying to think your way through, if this doesn't go through, what we'll do to continue our great water here in Rapid City. So thank you for all your work and report last week.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion for approval. All in favor of approval of item 53, say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Motion passes with 1 no from Drury.
Whoops, I meant no.
And Roberts. Okay, next item, please, 54.
Item number 54, first reading ordinance 6272, an ordinance regarding supplemental appropriation number 5 for 2018. Make a motion to approve.
Second by Darla Drew. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Takes us through ordinances. Now on to Community Planning and Development Service Department items, and maybe we can go to our Public Works Chair, Darla Drew, and get her to read in item 55.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 55, number 18PL053, a request by Davis Engineering, Inc. for Gregory J. Whalen for a preliminary subdivision plan for proposed lots A and B of Whalen Addition, generally described as being located at the northern terminus of Krebs Drive. I make a motion to approve with stipulations.
Pardon? Second by John Roberts. All in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now on to public hearing items 56 through 58. There are no speaker requests for those items, so we can consider those as consent public hearing items 56 through 58.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve them all by Scott, second by Drury. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Our bill list, item number 59, will go to Finance Officer Pauline Sumption.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are no changes to the bill list, so the total is that which is attached at $8,085,042.78.
Motion approved by Solomon, second by Laurenti. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Motion to adjourn by Scott, second by Laurenti and Drew. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.